All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Some very sad news to report today. Two of Pope Francis's grandnephews and the boy's mother were killed earlier today in a car crash in the Pontiff's homeland of Argentina. Very tragic, very sad, and the car was driven by the mother and struck a truck. And I heard that, and I shuddered, because we've all come to know and feel close to Pope Francis, and this is a tragic loss. Joining us now to talk about this and a lot more regarding the Pope, and also touch on Ferguson, is our friend Bill Donohue, Newsmax contributor and president of the Catholic League.
How you doing, Steve?
Let's do a fist bump. I always like, there you go. I'm tired of the handshake.
All
right, this is very sad.
Yeah. I just found out about it today. I have nothing to report on it. Just the same media reports as anybody else. Obviously, when it hits close to home, that's tough.
But the Pope made some, maybe it was a joke, but it was about his own mortality.
Right.
And he said that he has only 2 or 3 more years to live before he goes to the Father's house. And this is the first time he addressed his own mortality, and it comes in the wake, as you and I have discussed, about his failing health.
He has been fatigued. There's no question about it. People said he's gained weight. I'm hoping that he's wrong on this. I'm sure he's just, he does speak very impromptu, as you know, off the cuff, and there's a certain virtue to that. And God knows, we hope to have him a lot. He's 77 years of age. So hopefully he'll be around for a number more years.
Yeah, and he made these remarks returning home on a flight from the trip to South Korea, so it was a very hectic time. He might have been feeling a little fatigued, a little under the weather. You know what I loved? I'm digressing here. What do you get, in a Kia or something?
Yes.
I mean,
well, again,
typical Pope Francis.
I call him the populist Pope, and he's the Pope of the people. And
say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, he must give a heart attack to the people covering him. The security contingency there's got to be tough.
I'm sure, absolutely. All right, now, the Pope took some people aback by, again, speaking honestly and calling for or justifying the use of violence and, military power to stop ISIS. I mean, I couldn't be more thrilled. And you and I have talked about the Islamic threat and the persecution and killing of Christians all over the world for years. And now it's come into the focus of the media and, to a certain extent, our government and the world with what's going on in Iraq with the Christians there and the other minorities. But for the Pope to say this, how rare is that?
Well, it is, and all popes are basically going to take their first step is going to be toward peace and dialogue. Quite frankly, though, his words weren't as pointed and lacked the clarity of some of the other top officials. For example, the Holy See's representative to the Vatican, to the United Nations, Tomasi, last week came right out and said this is an evil that has to be stopped. You've had the Chaldean Patriarch. You've had the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. You've had the Papal Nuncio to Iraq calling for force, justifying the U.S. He was a little bit more tepid. He was saying that this is an illicit aggressor and that has to be stopped. And then he said, watch my words, stop. I don't mean by bombs, by war. He's a bit conflicted here because I don't think he wants to give the green light to any power, including the United States, which says, do whatever you got to do and wipe them out all over the place. He has taken a strong step, but it was actually a bit more
refined,
muddled.
it
was.
Than the other members of the Vatican.
Right. I actually preferred the comments last week.
And is this, do you believe, whether he calls for or sanctions military response or not, is this the first, do you think, of what will be a more frequent recognition, if not denunciation, of the persecution of Christians? I mean, it's not specifically Christians here. It's other minorities in Iraq he's talking about. There's reports that he's weighing a visit to Iraq. But do you think that this is, because I've said to you and asked many times, where's the Christian outrage in this country, in the world? But, and I mentioned the Pope as one who could speak out. Is this kind of, maybe you think,
Oh, yeah, I think the tipping point was ISIS because it's not just Iraq or Syria or Somalia or northern Sudan where these things are taking place. You're talking about a transnational group which has no home itself, the Islamic State of Syria, Iraq. They want the whole world to be a caliphate. They want to impose Sharia law all over the place. They have said that there'll be blood in the United States, that the face of Muhammad, the flag of Muhammad will hang in the White House. And I think what the Pope and the other leaders understand is that this is not just another dispute. Israel has a fight with Hamas right now, and hopefully Israel will tame Hamas. But in this case here, it's worse because they don't have any, they're not a nation state. And I think this is what's worried Saudi Arabia and other Muslim-dominated nations as well. This goes way beyond even a Sunni-Shia split.
And of course, they talk about putting an ISIS flag over over the White House here in the United States, and the fear is that they are here, will be here. Some of them have passports. Some of their fighters have European and United States passports. So this, they will do, if they could, what they're doing there to Christians and others, any non-Muslim, and in some case, fellow Muslims, here if they can, or in Western Europe.
Well, when you have 7-year-olds being beheaded,
oh, God.
I mean, when you have people being buried alive, when you have people being crucified, we're talking about a level of barbarism, the likes of which the world has not seen, at least since the 1970s with Pol Pot.
Absolutely.
And you can't stop these people through dialogue. You can't, if you could, I'd be all in favor of it, Give the international microphone, as Abbie Eben once said about the UN. I'm all in favor of that up to a point. As George Will once said, the 4 most important words in the English language. We're beyond that point, okay? Talk doesn't matter to these people. Any people who will kill their own people, never mind others. There's no boundaries here, so they have to be met with force. And I just hope that our president has the will. I know we have the resources. Does he have the will to finish the job?
That is a good question, and so far he's given no indication that he has any interest in finishing that job or even identifying the job that needs to be finished. All right, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Ferguson. You wrote a piece about that. To me, it's outrageous on so many levels at what's going on right now.
Well, Edward Banfield is a political scientist at the University of Pennsylvania. In 1969, he wrote this brilliant book called The Unheavenly City. And he was talking about the socioeconomic conditions which give rise to riots. But he also said, and this is what made the book so controversial, he said there's rioting mainly for fun and profit, and that the social scientists just don't get it. They're always microanalyzing, overanalyzing. What were the causes of oppression? Well, we know, for example, in the African American community, racial discrimination has receded dramatically, as has poverty. So they can't really be the proximate cause. There's a lot going on here. Banfield talked about how TV excites people. And I looked at this myself, and I went through the last 10 or 11 major race riots in American history going back to the 1960s. Every one of them occurred in the spring, and most of them in the summer.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a winter riot. And that goes beyond race, by the way. If you take a look at white riots with the Irish in 1863, the draft riots, take a look at Stonewall in 69 or the Chicago demonstration riots in 1968, it has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do, though, with young men and who take advantage of the opportunity, and they find it fun to smash windows and to loot and the like.
Get liquor from the liquor store.
Exactly. So I think people tend to overindulge in this idea of we have to find the forces of oppression. Sometimes the answer is much more simple, and in that sense, it's much more complex.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you watch the coverage on the media and you talk about TV, back in the 60s, even the blackout riots here in New York City, there weren't 24-hour cable. There certainly wasn't social media.
No, that's the big one.
So now it's all hands on deck.
Right. And you get a lot of false statements being made and false accusations. As you well know, you're dealing in the media for most of your life. It's very hard to get that out of that's like a toxin once it gets out there. And people trying to correct the record on something of this nature. But no, this is absolutely senseless. And as others have pointed out, where is Al Sharpton in Chicago? Where was he in New York, his hometown, last weekend when 14 people were shot, 2 of them dead? No, black on black crime doesn't excite him. White on black kind of violence does. If you're not a racist, it shouldn't matter whether the victim and the victimizer, what their race is. What matters is that people, particularly young men, are busy killing each other, and we've got to put an end to it.
And you are a former teacher, and you taught in minority neighborhoods, and so this holds a special place in your heart.
Absolutely. I worked in Spanish Harlem, in a very rough neighborhood in the 1970s. I loved the black and Puerto Rican kids there, and I led them in the Puerto Rican Day Parade and the African American exhibits and the like, and it was a great, rewarding time for me. And unfortunately, a lot of black and Puerto Ricans and others get a bad rap because of a handful of people, and the media will then take it and blow it up. Look, even Johnson, the head of the police there, said, listen, a lot of these people coming in from California and New York. I want people from the media to investigate. Who's coming in from other states?
Right.
How did they get there? Who's
Who are they?
coordinating?
Who's
Paying for them?
Yeah.
That's a story there. These are professional thugs.
Absolutely. Bill, always great to see you,
Thank you so
sir.
much.
Always great. All right, folks, a lot of ground covered there. And, no matter what religion you are, say a prayer for the Pope and his loss and the family members that perished in that terrible accident. Just a terrible story. And we'll see. Hopefully this Pope will be around for a long, long time, notwithstanding what he had to say. All right, folks, before we go, we do polls here at Newsmax, and we have a new poll. We want you to participate as you have in the past, and we want to know, is Rand Paul right? Well, we know he's right, but is he correct? Do you think the Ferguson police and other cities are over-militarized? Go to newsmax.com/polls and vote now. Give Me 5 is next.